Welcome back to Afternoon Live. From dream houses to disturbing family stories, it's the state that's the setting for hundreds of films. Our next guest's new book examines the place she grew up in and the endless number of movies set there. We welcome to Afternoon Live actress, film historian, and author of Connecticut in the Movies, Illeana Douglas. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much for being here. Hello, Portland.
What a great concept for a book when you stop and think about how many movies are set in Connecticut or connected to the state. Tell me about beginning this project for you. It was kind of a pandemic story to begin with.
Yes, I was living in Los Angeles with absolutely no thought about moving to Connecticut. And I started working on the book because I had a lot of time on my hands. And I started writing about The Swimmer, which is a movie I really loved. It's on the cover, obviously. And then my second film that I started to write about was Stanley and Iris. And from the point of view that it takes place in Waterbury, and I got into the history of Waterbury and its heyday and how it was a big manufacturing town. And then that's when I decided that the theme of the book was really showing these movies and talking about the perception of Connecticut, both that Hollywood had created and both to the people that actually lived here, because I think that so many times we have a perception of Connecticut, that it's like the Stepford Wives, but then it's also like Christmas in Connecticut. And I thought it was very interesting that so many filmmakers use Connecticut to tell a story. Unlike any other state in the Union, Connecticut is a state of mind. It's both idyllic, but it's also dark suburbia. And also the dream in Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, this idea that they sold America on a beautiful house in the country and they chose to make it Connecticut, and the fact that it was based on a real story. I just found all these themes to be very interesting. So I wanted to tell the story of Connecticut, but then I also wanted to tell the story of America through these different movies, if that makes sense.
And it's interesting the way you distill the idea as well of Connecticut as a character, where whenever Connecticut is mentioned or featured in a movie, you kind of know what the film is portraying, and that's something very unique to the state that probably not very many places can express that.
Well, again, it pops up in funny ways. In the film Jaws, in the very beginning of the movie, the girl's been killed by the shark, and he's interviewing her boyfriend, and he says, "You're not an islander, are you?" And he says, "No, I go to Trinity in Hartford. My parents live in Greenwich." And so it's shorthand.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way that if he said Ohio, it just wouldn't. But the minute he says, "I went to Trinity, my parents live in Greenwich," it speaks volumes. And it's usually used, again, to connote kind of wealth, privilege, status. But then Connecticut is so much more diverse.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to, capture all the different sides of Connecticut.
And I think a lot of people hold on to the nostalgia, especially of Christmas movies set in Connecticut. Was it fun to explore some of those old favorites as well?
So much so. Again, I talk about this. I think of the book as it's like a road trip, and it's a cinematic road trip through the state. And Christmas movies, really, it all goes back to Christmas in Connecticut and Holiday Inn. In the film Holiday Inn, he leaves the rat race of New York and goes to and opens a hotel in Connecticut, only opened on holidays, and it's in Connecticut that he's in the film that he specifically writes the song White Christmas. And both Hollywood created Holiday Inn and Christmas in Connecticut. They created this idealized version of Connecticut that became what everybody imagines when they think of Connecticut, but isn't exactly true. But yet then Connecticut sort of embraced this idea, of transformation, that especially in the movie Christmas in Connecticut, which is actually based on a real woman named Gladys Tabar, who's sort of the Martha Stewart of her day. She wrote columns for Better Housekeeping and cookbooks and all sorts of a fabulous woman. But the movie is really based on her. She actually did live in a farmhouse in Southbury, Connecticut. Very, influential writer. And so Hollywood, took the interpretations of the writings of Gladys Tabor and put them into the movie and created again this fantasy of that. I think a lot of people move here, including myself. You are seduced by this idea of a place in the country away from the city where you can really discover who you are. And what is so crazy about the book is that I was writing about that, but as an observer, but I
Hmm.
never expected it to actually happen to me. And there is this funny element that it is true. You do really discover who you are in the country.
Illeana, we could talk for hours. I love the way you connect the dots. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Oh, thank you so
Hopefully we'll
much.
see you in Portland again soon as well.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
The book again is Connecticut in the Movies. Author Illeana Douglas will have more information about the book and Illeana on our website at katu.com.